Hello, General. Welcome to the ICP Strategic Command System. Using this system, you'll be in a position to give orders to your commanders and your men, and to visualize the development of the conflict perfectly in real time. First, you're going to learn how to use the visualization and navigation system. To move the camera on the battlefield, use the left analog stick. Up to go. Perfect. To change the direction of the camera, that is, to turn it, use the right analog stick. Okay. To change the angle of the camera, use the right analog stick. Up to move away from. Very good. To zoom in, press the cross button while holding the R2 button pressed down. To zoom out, exactly. During battles, messages are displayed in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen to give you information about important events on the ground. To move the camera to the last point where something important happened, press the triangle button while keeping the R2 button pressed down. When you control several bases, you'll need to move regularly from one to another. To move the camera through the bases you possess, press the triangle button. You can also move the camera around quickly on the battlefield by using the radar minimap in the top right-hand corner of the screen. This shows the extent of the zone covered by the visualization and command system. A trapezoid represents your current visual field. If you change the camera settings, the trapezoid adjusts itself immediately. Press the up directional button while keeping the R1 button pressed down to move the cursor on the minimap. From now on, you can move the camera using the minimap. Press on the square button to move the camera to the point the cursor is directed at. If you keep the square button pressed down and use the left analog stick, the camera will follow the movements of the analog stick on the minimap. If you find that the radar minimap is too small, you can activate the strategic map by pressing the R1 button again and pressing the up directional button. The strategic map is a kind of super mini-map. It's bigger and more detailed, but it still works in a similar way. On it, you can see buildings, infantry, and vehicles, which camp they belong to, their direction, and even their destination. So it's a very useful tool. To return to the strategic map or the mini-map in normal mode, press the down directional button while keeping the R1 button pressed down, or press on the circle button only. You can record up to 4 different camera positions. Press the L2 button and press simultaneously on one of the 4 directional buttons, up, down, left, or right, to save a camera position. To press the camera in one of the previously saved positions, press the L1 button and press simultaneously on the directional button, which was used to define the camera position to save. If you get disoriented, simply press L3 button or R3 button to reset the camera with the original direction and angle parameters. Now that you've familiarized yourself with the navigation and visualization system, let's move on to the command interface. Here's a group of ICP combat units ready to obey you. There are some Marines and a Jeep. Before giving them orders, you should first select them. You can use the 4 directional buttons to review the units present on screen. Each press on one of these 4 buttons allows you to position the cursor on the nearest unit in the direction you've chosen to go. When the cursor is positioned on a unit, pressing once on the cross button selects the unit that's being pointed at. The system's automatically in additive mode, so if you've already selected one or more units, pressing once on Perfect! Pressing once on the circle button cancels the current selection. OK. Pressing once on the square button selects all the units that are visible on screen. Press the R2 button and the square button simultaneously to make the camera follow the movements of the selected units automatically. Press on the circle button to go back to the standard camera mode. To create a group with the selected units, press simultaneously on the L2 button and one of the four following buttons: cross button, circle button, square button, or triangle button. Exactly. To recall one of the groups created in this way, press simultaneously on the L1 button and on the button you use to define the group: cross button, circle button, square button, or triangle button. Pressing a second time on that button centers the camera on the selected group. On the left of the screen is a list of units selected, categorized by type. Press simultaneously on the R1 button and the left directional button to access this list. You can limit your selection to a particular type by positioning the cursor on this type in the list and pressing on the cross button. On the left of the screen is a list of units selected, categorized by type. Press simultaneously on the R1 button and the left directional button to access this list. You can limit your selection to a particular type by positioning the cursor on this type in the list. Very good. You can remove a specific type from the list by positioning the cursor on it and pressing the square button. Now that you know how to select your units, it's time to give them some orders. The cross button is used for this purpose. Your men are endowed with a certain degree of autonomy, and they can determine the most appropriate action to take on a Perfect! To choose which order to give, you may also use the order icons that are grouped together in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. You can activate these icons when units are selected by pressing the R1 button and pressing on the right directional button. The number and nature of the icons displayed depend on the type of unit selected. When units with different abilities are selected, only the orders that are common to your group are displayed. You can also use the four directional buttons to choose an order, and you validate the chosen order with the cross button. Finally, please note that you can also use the radar mini-map to designate a target or a destination. Just click on it with the cross button. Your units have three different behavioral modes: defensive, strict, and aggressive. Depending on which instruction they are following, your units will all carry out your orders in the same manner. For maximum efficiency, you should learn how to use all three to best advantage. Press the R1 button and then press the cross button to loop through the behavioral modes of the selected units. The default instruction for your units is strict. This means that they'll carry out your orders in the most rigorous fashion, regardless of the dangers. Shift your troops into defensive mode, and you'll see them modify their behavior. They attack only to return fire, and they try to avoid combat situations if they possibly can. Shift your your troops into aggressive mode, and the opposite occurs. They deliberately seek out combat situations. You'll also see that the units position themselves differently in relation to each other in accordance with their behavioral mode. It's now time to set up a base. Move your units to the zone on the ground that's made up of darker strips at the bottom of the map. These strips show the locations where a base can be deployed. You also need a minimum popularity level to create a building, equip troops, and assemble combat vehicles. This popularity level is a reflection of the support you get from your side and the trust they place in you. You'll need the maximum popularity level to access the most powerful units. To keep up your popularity score and increase it, make a particular effort to save civilians. And if you want to avoid losing popularity, try to avoid causing collateral damage, because the media are on the lookout for this sort of thing, and you won't be forgiven for any mistakes you make. Finally, bases need a power supply. All the buildings on your base use up power, and you should build enough generators to supply them correctly. If your base is undersupplied, that is below the 100% bar, your building work will be slowed down considerably and your defenses will be paralyzed. So watch out! To find out what a base's power level is, just select one of the buildings on the base. The energy level is displayed at the top of the screen to the right of the resources. To begin developing your first base, you have to be in control of it. To achieve this, you must post at least one of your men on the base location. One of the orders available for your men posted here is Colonize. Click on it with the cross button, and the outline of your basic building, the command center, will appear. As soon as OK. Once your command center has been completed, you'll begin to earn command points regularly. With these, you can buy other buildings and units. Select your command center to display the list of buildings it allows you to construct. For the time being, only the generator is available. Click on the generator's icon with the cross button, then designate a valid location on your base. The generator will be built. You can change the location using the directional buttons. Once this has been done, the generator provides access to new buildings. Select the command center again. You can now create the barracks and vehicle factory. With these two buildings, you can equip your infantry and assemble the vehicles. They also provide access to further new buildings. You also have access to the refugee camp. When a camp is created, it's provided with a helicopter to go and rescue civilians from the villages. You can try and fetch some from the village to the left of your base. The civilians automatically get into your helicopter, and when it's full, you should fly it towards the camp where the civilians will be able to take cover. The bonus you get for doing this is proportional to the number of civilians saved. Once your command center has been completed, you'll begin to earn command points regularly. With these, you can buy other buildings and units. Select your command center to display the list of buildings it allows you to construct. For the time being, only the generator is available. Click on the generator's icon with the cross button, then designate a valid location on your base. The generator will be built. You can change the location using the directional buttons. Once this has been done, the generator provides access to new buildings. Select the command center again. You can now create the barracks and vehicle factory. With these two buildings, you can equip your infantry and assemble the vehicles. They also provide access to further new buildings. also have access to the refugee camp. When the camp is created, it's provided with a helicopter to go and rescue civilians from the villages. You can try and fetch some from the village to the left of your base. The civilians automatically get into your helicopter, and when it's full, you should fly it towards the camp where the civilians... Okay! I think you've now understood how bases work. Later on, you'll find out about the rest of the arsenal at your disposal. To reward and support you in your operations, as the game progresses, commanders are assigned to you. You can have a maximum of 4 at your side. You can delegate missions and entrust bases and men to them. The main advantage of doing this is that it allows you to concentrate on tasks that you find more interesting. It also helps you tackle highly complex situations without being overburdened. All the commanders are able to take on any type of mission: attack, defense, development of a base, and the option of picking up civilians. However, they all have different characters and strategic preferences, strongly influencing the way in which they carry out the tasks entrusted to them. Furthermore, their individual style will gradually confirm itself or, on the contrary, change, depending on the degree of trust you put in them. Press the R1 button and press on the right directional button to open the Commander's Orders panel. This panel comprises a maximum of 4 tabs, one for each commander. Here you only have one commander, Hooper, your finest specialist in attack operations. You can give him money to help develop and maintain one of your bases, whether it's a new base or not. The figure under the commander's portrait shows you how many command points he has. Using the 3 buttons below, you can determine how the command points you've received with him will be divided. The first button to the left allocates all command points to you. The second in the center divides the points between you and the commander. The portion received by each person will depend on the number of commanders who you share the command points between. Finally, the third button allocates all the command points to the commander. Using the plus and minus buttons located just below, you can give or take back a fixed sum of 1,000 command points to or from the commander with each click. Since you have a base which is constantly earning command points, try experimenting with the command point dividing system. Now it's time to ask your commander to continue developing your base. Obviously, if you don't give him any money, he won't be able to build anything. So give him all the command points you've received by clicking on the third button in the dividing system. Then click on the development icon. The cursor changes depending on the order given. Click on your base with the cross button to designate which base to develop. Immediately, the buildings that have already been created are surmounted by a colored triangle showing that the base is now controlled by... Exactly! You can see the outlines of the buildings your commander decides to construct. As soon as the barracks and vehicle factory are built, your commander is bound to begin equipping soldiers and assembling combat vehicles. All the units created by a commander belong necessarily to him, and you'll see how he sends them out to defend the base. You'll also see that the buildings and units created differ appreciably according to which commander's in control. Furthermore, the way in which a commander develops a base changes and adapts, depending on the situation and the amount of experience he's had at your side. Of course, you can resume control of the units created by your commander whenever you like. There are 3 buttons to exchange units between yourself and your commanders. The first allocates selected units to the commander whose tab is displayed. The second takes back selected units from the commander. Finally, the third takes back all the troops assigned to the commander. The characteristic triangle that indicates which commander the units belong to disappears as soon as you take control. think you know how to develop a base and share the work with your commanders, the time has come to attack. All the same, wait till you have sufficient strength. When your commander has created around 10 units, click on the attack icon on his tab to order him to attack. Be sure to check that all the units created belong to your commander, because if he doesn't have any units, he won't be able to attack. The cursor changes into an attack cursor. All that's left for you to do is to designate the objective directly on the ground or with the radar minimap. Designate the base to the northeast of the region, then press on the cross button. As soon as the order is validated, the commander stops developing the base and leads his men towards the objective. And don't forget the following important point. Your commanders cannot carry out 2 orders simultaneously. So if you don't want your base to be left empty and abandoned, you should... Perfect! Follow the troops and your commander with the camera. Before long, they'll be nearing an enemy-held base. When the units come close to the enemy base, the base is revealed. And as soon as they're within effective firing range, they'll begin their attack. Try to disable the enemy force, making it incapable of doing harm. If your own troops don't prove up to the task and are wiped out, prepare your assault more carefully and create a new group of combat units that's large enough to confront the enemy. Conduct the attack directly by leading your men, or entrust them once again to your commander. All that counts is victory.
A massive attack. Allocated units. Savage attack launched. We're being attacked, General. Attack.
Unit lost.
We've launched a massive attack. We're being attacked,
Unit
General.
lost. Unit lost.
We're being attacked, General.
Base under...
The ICP's taken control of a base.
Congratulations! The enemy's beaten. You've completed the commanding training phase. Now it's time for me to salute you and wish you the best of luck in all your...